Welcome back to another episode of Armor Up podcast with your host, Lorayne Michaels. And today I want to talk to you about changes and tracking. You cannot change what you don't track. And a lot of times my clients, when they come to me, they are not tracking. I could probably say that 99% of the time, my clients are not tracking anything. And no fault of their own. That's why they're coming to me, so that I can help them. But I want to talk to you about the importance of tracking because, like I said, you cannot change what you don't track. And if you aren't aware of what's going on, then you're not going to know what to change. And so the importance with tracking, we're going to talk specifically about macros right now. The importance of tracking your macros is so that you know where you're at and what you need to change or increase or decrease. Macros are a non-negotiable when it comes to fitness and nutrition because you cannot achieve a certain goal or aesthetic without tracking. So let's say, for example, you want to lose fat and tone up. Well, that toned look is actually muscle. So what you really are doing is you're building muscle, and in turn, when you build muscle, you're going to automatically lose fat. So when people come to me and they say they want to lose weight, it takes a little bit of digging and asking some questions. But typically what they want to do is they want to look better and feel better. And they may be overweight, yes, but maybe not. It might not be that they are overweight. They just have an unhealthy proportion of muscle to fat. So they might think they're overweight, but when we start to lose fat and build muscle, their weight might even stay the same. It might even go up, depending on, what the numbers really are. So tracking. Prime example, this morning, I had a healthy breakfast, probably one of my favorite breakfasts. It is avocado toast with eggs, fried eggs, or scrambled, either one. But I usually do 2 eggs, homemade sourdough, which that's the only bread we ever have in this house is homemade sourdough because there's only 3 ingredients in it, and I know what goes in it. So it's healthy. And there is a level of protein, especially when you start milling your own flour. But I'm not going to get into that. So anyways, homemade sourdough toast, a half an avocado, and 2 eggs. That is a good, well-balanced breakfast, and it's got a healthy amount of fats, a good amount of carbs, and it has protein. However, it is not enough protein, and I know that. But the average person wouldn't know that. They would think that that is a good breakfast. The only reason why they would know is if they were tracking. And so that's why it is so important to track your macros when you are on a health journey or when you are trying to achieve a certain goal. There will be a time where you will track for so long, and then you'll figure out and you'll learn what your numbers are by what you eat. You'll know that 2 eggs is only about 15 grams of protein. You'll learn that 4 ounces of chicken is roughly about 25 to 28 grams of protein. Like, you'll start to learn these things once you start tracking for a period of time. And so historically, with my clients, women that come to me are overtraining and undereating. And so when we start, I create your fitness program and how often you're working out, and based off of your metrics, age, weight, how often you are going to be working out, age and weight, and then how often you're going to be moving around and exercising. So after I put in those metrics, then I can figure out how many calories you'll need. And then I'll start to figure out what the macro amount is that you'll need. And when that happens, my clients are floored and they're like, oh my gosh, how do I eat that much? How do I eat that much protein? This is a lot. Are you sure? A lot of times my clients get scared of the amount of calories that they need to be consuming. And it's difficult for them at first to hit those macro amounts. And when I say macros, I'm talking protein, fat, and carbs. Those are the three main macros that you need to survive, that your body needs. And so we just have to, get on this journey together, and clients need to be able to trust their coaches that they are leading them in the right direction. And sometimes it feels counterintuitive and sometimes it feels difficult, but there's a way to do these things. I come up with different ways in order to get protein, and I'll send you different worksheets and PDFs of different ideas of how you can add things like chia seeds, hemp hearts, different things to start to increase the protein that you have. So it's not just, I have to eat 10 ounces of chicken and 1 ounce of green beans. It's not like that. So it takes a bit of education, but this is why tracking is so important, because, for instance, my breakfast this morning was not enough protein. I know that throughout my day, I'm going to have to figure out different ways to add in little boosts of protein so that I can have the right amount. Now, what is the right amount? Again, like I had said, it is based off of your metrics and the level of activity that you do. And then I can come up with those numbers. Also, a good rule of thumb is for protein, you should be eating a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So if you weigh 150 and you want to weigh 130 pounds, then you should be eating 130 grams of protein a day. And a good way to do that, to make sure that you don't fall really short, is trying to get at least 30 to 40 grams of protein in per meal. So if you did 40 and you eat 3 times a day, that's already 120 grams of protein for the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All you have to do is add in a shake or some nuts or just little things, adding hemp hearts or chia seeds to any of your meals or your water. Chia seeds to your water, not hemp hearts. Hemp hearts can be thrown on salads, sandwiches, in your shakes or smoothies. So there's different ways that you can add in these boosts to help you hit your protein goals. So a good rule of thumb, a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, and aim for 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal. All right. And so back to, you can't change what you don't track. For so long, so I've been doing this, I've been in the fitness space for 20 years, 15, 20 years now. And so in the very beginning, I had a coach and I started competing. And so that was me tracking and learning how to eat. And then slowly after, years, I started to intuitively eat, meaning I knew how much protein I was getting. I knew how to eat instinctively. And then a few years ago, I really wanted to focus on changing my body, because once you get into your 40s, your hormones start changing. And so your body requires a different amount, more protein than not. And I wanted to start building muscle. And so I really was focusing on building muscle. Aesthetically, on the outside, nothing was changing. I wasn't gaining weight. I wasn't losing weight. I wasn't really putting on muscle. And so I had to start tracking again. I did a body scan, so an in-body scan, which takes all your weight, body fat, muscle mass, all those things, which I highly recommend. If you're working with me, you will get that done, a body scan. And so then we can figure out, where you're sitting, muscle mass, body fat, BMI, all those things. It tells you all of those metrics. And so I did that, and I realized that my body fat percentage had gone up and my muscle mass had gone down. And then I started tracking my food, and lo and behold, I was not eating enough. I wasn't eating enough calories, and I was not eating enough protein. I wasn't even close to the amount of protein that I should have been having. And that is why I was not seeing any changes. So that's why tracking is important. Now, tracking is not for everybody, and I realize that. If you have an eating disorder, tracking is not good for you. If you become obsessive compulsive about numbers and metrics, and if you start becoming hyper fixated on, I need to lose weight, or I'm trying, whatever the goal may be, and you become hyper fixated on it, tracking is not for you. That is why I have these guides and worksheets, so that you can start to build your plate and your meals according to what I have for you, and you'll be able to total it on your own. So this way here, you're not becoming obsessive about it. And then you start to learn intuitively what your plate should look like in order to get the appropriate amount of macros that you need. So tracking is important, and it's not for everybody, but that's why it's so important to work with a coach like myself, a certified personal trainer, certified wellness coach. I have 20 years history and experience in medicine and in fitness. So I know a lot about what your body needs, and I know a lot about how your body responds. And also, that's why I work with functional medicine practitioners, so that we can get your labs done and figure out what's really going on. I have a client, we weren't seeing the progress that we thought would be happening at this stage of the game. And so I said, hey, have you gotten your labs done recently? Let's go ahead and take a look at that, and let's see what's really going on. And sure enough, there was a ton of inflammation, insulin resistance. There was a couple of things going on that we needed to address, whether it be with certain medications, certain peptides that will help so that your body can adapt and start to do what we're trying to train it to do. And then sure enough, weight started moving and results started coming. So that's all I have for you today. That's your important piece on tracking and why measuring is important, especially if you have a certain goal or if you're trying to figure out, what's going on. You're trying to get healthy. We need to figure out what's really going on, so we're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks and we get the results we want. All right, guys, if this episode has been at all helpful to you, please rate the podcast. Give it some love, some stars. That's how we get this to spread to everyone that needs to hear it. Share this with someone. Tag me on social media. I'd love to interact with you. Not trying to sell you anything. I just want to be your friend. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. Remember, you were divinely created for a divine purpose.